spotlight. Sabine, go for it.
Thank you, Renata. It's really good to be here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Fireside Chat. I'm excited about it. I was just thinking as I was preparing that the people on this group probably aren't strangers to what I'm going to be talking about today. And it's definitely not going to be a new thing for you. It's about recalibration and just checking whether your alignment is where your alignment is. You know, we were talking the last time about how misalignment costs the global GDP around $8.8 trillion every year. And that's through different types of misalignment. But what I wanted to do today is give you an opportunity within this focused hour to do a quick F1 check. And Dave mentioned the F1 earlier on, so it's it almost seems like it was meant to be. So we're going to be doing a quick F1 check on your alignment. But before I start with the practical, I just wanted to let you know I'm gonna split it into two phases. Today's talk. The first phase is going to be just sharing two stories with you to frame the importance of alignment and how it impacts the bottom line, where that 8.8 trillion comes from, and how we can one of the things that we can do to improve it, because obviously there's lots of things we can do to change that number, but the second piece is going to be practical. So I'm going to give you 5 checkpoints to have a look at within your own experience, within your own business or your own job, whatever you're working on at the moment, that you can use for yourself and you could potentially use for your team as well. So as a starting point, we're going to go into a question. So have you ever loved your work so much that you're willing to go to war for your job? Like, have you ever been in that position where you just feel so excited? Now, a friend of mine did. His name is Elton. I had coffee with him the other day. And Elton spent 25 years in a global business. There was a car rental global business, and he headed up King Shaka International Airport in South Africa. And when he spoke about his job, he literally leaned over the table and he was like, Sabine, if I could tell you how much I absolutely loved my job. Like I would wake up on a Monday morning ready to go to war for this company. I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen that passion before. And then he said to me, but then and actually he started right at the bottom and he worked his way up and he had lots of different positions and he worked in different locations and eventually he was at King Shaka International and he did really, really well. And then he said to me, and then the company got acquired. And he said within 1 year he left. It was done. He put in his resignation. He hated his job. And I was like, whoa, tell me more. And it was really telling. You know, he said to me, I mean, look, first of all, the airport hadn't changed. You know, the company, his skills hadn't changed. His capability, you know, was still the same. The thing that changed was the alignment. You know, the whole culture had shifted. You know, the way all the decisions were being made shifted, and the focus changed as well, the focus of the company. And suddenly the environment that he'd been really deeply aligned to no longer felt the same. And that's the problem. When alignment changes, even the most capable and loyal people begin to disengage. And then you have that result of $8.8 trillion. And I said, yeah, let me just reiterate, it's not just that, but it contributes towards that. But the part of his story that struck me the most came a little bit later. Well, it was the reason why he was sitting in front of me. It was 18 months after he'd actually resigned, which is why he contacted me. He'd taken a sabbatical and he'd actually received a really good package after being with the company for so long, because even though he resigned, there was like some weird stuff going on, and so they actually paid him out. But he sat across from me and he said something that really stayed with me. He said, Sabine, I actually don't know what I want to do. So Elton is 54 years old. Time was ticking. You know, he realized something really important, like, well, money was also running out. You know, for 25 years, he had been aligned with the company, but he had never stopped to align himself. So that's when it really struck me. One of the biggest risks that leaders sometimes face today is it's not just a strategic thing or AI or technology or competition. It's possibly misalignment, because when alignment breaks, your engagement disappears, and then you have cognitive dissonance, which is an entire and a different topic altogether. And when people don't know their own alignment, change can leave them really lost. So what I want to ask you now is, and you can share it in the chat if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just kind of think about it. I'm going to ask you two questions. So question number one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how aligned do you currently feel with the work that you're doing? And 10 is like you wake up like Elton, like ready to go to war for your company or your business or whatever you do. And you're super energized and you're just like in flow. Or 1 on the other end of the scale, you are just Sunday nights are the worst. You know that feeling. I'm sure everybody's had that feeling before. So yeah, I'm not looking at the chat at the moment, but I am. Let me just have a look and see if anybody has put in there.
Yes, I can share with you if you want.
Okay, cool.
If it helps
10.
you.
I love that. 8. Okay. Yes. So yeah, okay, cool. 10. That's amazing. That's cool. And you know what the thing is that you might be aligned with what you're doing, which is incredible, but the teams might not be. And so maybe this calibration isn't for you. Maybe you are like at your peak and you're really happy, but maybe the calibration can be used for your team to make sure that there is alignment with your team. Wherever you are applying for it, one of the things that I have noticed recently in many careers and businesses, they are built around functions. And it's function rather than purpose. And a lot of people think like purpose is really pink and fluffy. And I'm going to get into another story that kind of connects purpose to the bottom line. So functions change, technologies change, markets change, platforms change, like the whole online business space. Renate is very familiar with it. There's a lot of people that built their businesses around functions. So how I can help you build a funnel, how I can help you run your Facebook ads. And that's really brilliant because we have to have a function. We have to have a skill because that's the whole point. But when everything changes, industries change, things shift, unexpected pandemics happen or, whatever. Maybe you've been retrenched. Maybe you come to the end of a career and there's like a new season of life. Is there a clarity on what's next? And so building careers on function as well as purpose is where the magic happens. And so I'm going to tell another story about somebody who was able to pivot, who, when things changed, felt like really clear and actually applies her function in lots of different scenarios. So her name is Bev Milam. She is a Gallup certified coach and a speaker, and she does workshops. She actually worked in Dubai. Who actually wanted to be the happiest city in the world. So she's also a happiness consultant. And when she moved back from Dubai, having run an events and was an events company and a training company. So she got involved in the happiest city in the world project with Dubai and whatever. And so she's a happiness consultant. And she always knew that she wanted to, that her purpose was around happiness. And it sounds quite pink and fluffy because she said when she came back to South Africa after being in Dubai for 25 years, people said, "Oh, babe, you got to drop the happiness thing. It's too pink and fluffy. No one's going to go for it. It just, it's got no legs." And she didn't listen to it. And it's actually quite interesting to hear her story about how she now applies that to, she travels around the whole country, doing workshops that are rooted in a function. So she helps to change culture in schools. She also changes culture in companies. And now she's contributing to the culture in our community here in Ballito and Salt Rock. And yesterday, or the day before yesterday, she unveiled a Happy Loo, which was a toilet at the beach that was completely dirty and horrible, and decided she wanted to take on this project of creating a happy toilet. And the mayor got involved, and the mayor came and unveiled it, and she was interviewed on TV and whatever. And a lot of people look at that and go, well, how does she just attract all this stuff to her? She attracts all the right projects and all the right people and partnerships. And it's because she's rooted in that one thing, and she's able to pivot based on her core purpose. Now she adds her functions to her purpose. So now, when people hear the word purpose, the reactions are quite interesting. Some people love it, and other people think it sounds, well, pink and fluffy. But the research increasingly shows something really interesting. Purpose-driven organizations, and this is just part of the research that I was doing when preparing for this, that purpose-driven organizations outperform competitors in the long-term financial performance. I found that really interesting. So they see higher engagement and higher retention and stronger long-term results. And that made me think about something really interesting. If purpose gives companies a strategic advantage, why wouldn't purpose give individuals the same advantage? You know, the work that I do, when I originally started the unique value proposition off the back of my radio career for solopreneurs and individuals to find their niche, I kind of looked at businesses. I'd interviewed hundreds of businesses for radio to create 30-second ads to make them stand out on air. And I thought to myself, well, if a business can have a unique value proposition, then so can a person, and then they can apply that to a business that they would have. And so, you know, there's a lot of individuals like Elton who he didn't realize, he didn't know what his purpose was. But he somehow just had this great fit with a company, and it was great, but until it wasn't. And then he wasn't able to pivot. And then 18 months later, he's still kind of searching and going like, what am I going to do? And so, yeah, so the thing that changes is, you know, the environment and the values. It's such an important thing. And it's something that I didn't realize was such a huge part of the success of a company. When I ran my company, I was a terrible manager. I was awful because I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't realize that it was just all rooted in, you know, people first. And I'm sure that a lot of you know that already. And it just brings it to today's session, which is around the alignment and the 5 elements. And it's not something you figure out once at the beginning of the career. You know, sometimes we need to recalibrate continuously. So it's like that Formula One, you know, the fastest cars in the world still pull up into the pit lane regularly, not because something is necessarily broken, but because it's just a little bit of an alignment. And, you know, misalignment can cost performance, you know, and a small adjustment on your tires or your fuel can really make a huge difference between winning and losing. And I suppose leadership is exactly the same. So today we're going to just do a quick check in your alignment. And I'm going to go with 5 checks: your energy, your strength, your capability, your values, and your mission. But before we get into it, I just want to check in with you to see if you've got any questions or contributions or anything like you've experienced yourself with your personal alignment or your team's alignment. And if you don't, that's also fine. I'll just go into the calibration. That's also cool. Alrighty. So let's get into it then. Why don't we start? So we're going to start with your energy. And I wasn't going to share this, but Renata asked me right before we came into this. She said, did you start a yogurt business? And I did. So in November, a friend of mine, so back in the day when I lived in Uganda, in 2014 actually, I started a Greek yogurt business. It's strained high protein because I was training and I needed to find something that was high in protein. And the only thing I could find was like a really bad quality protein powder that made me look 5 months pregnant. So I did some research and I found that Greek yogurt was a really good source of protein. And because it was in Uganda, we lived in Kampala, and there was just no Greek yogurt. I mean, I don't even think there was any decent, good quality yogurt. So I learned how to make it, and it turned into a business. And then I would flavor it with like really healthy stuff, like raw honey and espresso and cacao, and like it was really beautiful stuff. And it turned into, because it was so thick and so healthy. It was like this dessert yogurt, this like high protein. It was awesome. Anyway, so when I came back to South Africa, I started making it for friends. And then I moved to the UK for a few years. And I came back, and a friend said to me last year, she was like, you have to make your Greek yogurt. Please, please, please. She kept asking me the whole year. And eventually I gave in. I was like, fine, I'll do it. So I turned it into an experiment, and I don't have a huge amount of followers on Facebook. I've got like 2,500. But I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to showcase it as an experiment to show people how easy it is to start a business. Because that's the whole thing. It's like people who are afraid to start businesses because they're afraid of failure, or they don't know where to start or how to start or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to showcase this. I'm going to do the yogurt diaries. So I did like a check-in. I haven't done a check-in for a while for a reason, and you'll be the first to know that my next check-in is my final 90-day check-in, and I'm going to reveal that I'm no longer doing the yogurt business because I don't like it. It makes me feel stuck and like not in flow, and it doesn't give me energy. And I'm like, when I have to, I love the yogurt. My family like loves it. They just adore it, and everybody loves it, and it's great and whatever. And that part I love. But I don't love making it. And when I have to make it now, it's like such a chore. It's such a pain in the butt. And so I'm like, I've now come to the realization that I need to announce the fact that I'm not doing it. But it's actually great because it just means like when you're in that 90-day period of like starting a business, and that's like a whole other talk all on its own, you need to do a what's it called again? I can't think of the word now because I'm not in that mode, but to check whether it's viability study. You don't want to go and invest a huge amount of money and time and effort into building a business that's not going to work. So you just do like a 90-minute check. You check your market, you see what it's going to cost, and you kind of play the movie forward and see, well, I actually need to make 1 ton of yogurt a month in order to make it financially viable. Do I want to do that? No. Anyway, the point is that your energy is so important in what you're doing every day in your business. How energized, on a scale of 1 to 10, how energized are you by your work? Like, do you feel like you are like you have to work so hard, and you've got to but you've got grit, and like you're powerful and you're good. So you're just going to do it. Actually, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because when I do the work that I do, helping people find their niche, helping people start their business, helping people find their unique value, I can do it all day long without getting paid, and I can't wait. That's what I want to do. And it energizes me. And the more I do it, the more I want to do it. But please don't make me make yogurt, because I just want to it's such a chore. So yeah, just do that calibration for yourself quickly. What is your energy level in what you're currently doing from 1 to 10? And actually, it wasn't a question I was going to ask you, but second piece of energy, let's ask yourself, what do you do? Okay, so parts of it, 15 out of 10. I love that. And then other parts, 1 out of 10. Okay, that's so good. Okay, well, let's do that. Instead of the second question, let's consider the things that give you energy and the things that don't energize you. Maybe that's just a good thing to calibrate, so that it just brings that awareness and looks at, and in fact, maybe also consider out of work. What gives you energy where you lose track of time? You just completely you would do it for free, lose track of time. See, Renata, you're being honest. I don't like to give 10 to things, so my energy is 9, but I like to be real here. There are days that are 3. Your yogurt making days. Alrighty. Okay. Connecting with people, meeting strangers, awesome. Yeah, Bertrand, you're definitely building a business around your purpose and your passion. Awesome. Okay. I love this. Connecting with people. So many cool things. Okay. All right. We're going to get on to the second calibration element, and that is strength. So what do people, so that's like, so when I say strength, I mean your natural gift, something that you can like not, you don't have to work that hard on to just exponentially do well at. Like, what is your natural gift? What do people consistently come to you for, even when it's not technically your job? And maybe that's in and out of work. Let's actually do this exercise, not just for work, but also because I do believe that our purpose and our alignment is a holistic thing. It's not only work. So let's just consider like a broad outside of work and inside of work. What is your natural gifting, and are you applying it to work? I think that's where we can kind of, so when you consider the natural gifting, consider it broadly in and out of work. But then when you hold on to it, just go, am I applying it in work? Because that is something that enables you to function exponentially well if you're applying your natural gifting. It's like, I actually thought about an analogy this morning. Like there's certain body types that are, who was the person that read what was it called? The sports gene. Somebody on the group read the sports gene and made a comment on it. And then I had a look at it, and I looked at the summary, and it had a look at like your physical makeup would then determine like what you could be really good at. So anyone can train at any sport really, really hard, but there's some that you would naturally do really well at. So if that's applied for sport, then surely we can apply it for our internal design. And that's what this is all about. This is about an internal design conversation. You know, some of it is not internal design, like your skill set that is learned, and you go and you kind of learn that along the way, but a lot of it is internal design. And if we and the alignment conversation is very tied to your internal design. We must be doing things that are connected to that. And it might be just like you know, that F1 thing, like a slight tweak that is a recalibration that gives you on track and just makes you flow beautifully. Right. Okay. This is interesting. So I love what you're saying, Bertrand, about joy, activation, energy, relatedness, empathy, because this is a values conversation, and that's so connected with your natural gifting and all your passions and stuff. So all of these elements are actually interconnected. And that's why when you look at somebody like Bev, whose purpose is happiness and seems pink and fluffy, like it is rooted in who she is, and that's what drives her every day. It's a value. It's a value that drives her. Anyway, so now we're going to move on to the third calibration piece, and that is capability. So this is your like hard skills. So what skills and experience do you bring that genuinely add value to your organization? And I actually got asked this question the other day. What skills are you not using that you would like to use? You know, maybe you've been promoted, or you've changed jobs, or you've started a business or whatever, and there might be certain skills that you might not be using. So my answer to that question was, oh, I haven't done a proposal for a long time. I used to love doing proposals, especially in radio. Like you have these like programs and these ideas where you're doing like radio campaigns across like online and on air and on the ground and activations and whatever. And then I'd like put the vision together because I'm like a visionary thinker. I'd put a vision together and then I'd go and present it, and I get so energized by that. And I hadn't been doing that for ages. And I thought, wow, I actually miss that. You will not believe what happened the very next day. I got a message from a guy and he was like, oh, do you know anybody that can do proposals? I'm needing somebody to help me with a proposal for my nonprofit. I was like, pick me. I was so excited. So it's like that awareness, like I was saying earlier on, you guys at the level that you're at, you've probably done this type of work over and over and over again. But sometimes it's really good to just like recalibrate and go, okay, well, let's just do it again, because you don't know what's going to come up and go, oh, yeah, I remember this. It's at the bottom of my cupboard. Let's bring it out and start wearing it again, Forgot I'd had that. So that's what this exercise is all about. Anyway, let's just go back to, so that's your capability. What skills maybe do you want to bring back, or maybe you just want to highlight and say, like, I am actually using what I'm really good at, and that's why I'm a 10. But is your team there? Is your team utilizing their are they in their aligned space from a skill set perspective? So let's move on to the fourth thing. So number 4 is values. So this is where Bertrand, you were talking about the different values that came up for you. So where do your personal values strongly align with your organization? And maybe where do they clash? Is there a clash? This is something that is so important, and exactly what happened with Elton. So what was really interesting when we had the conversation together was he told me all of what he told me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing how that happened so quickly. And he said to me, like they would be like, one of the things that one of the directors would do, he would just walk into the office and he would take money out of the petty cash. It was just like a little thing, but he wouldn't record it. And Alton was like, no, you have to record it. And that was like really clashing with his value system, because they weren't like above board. They were just like, we live in South Africa, guys. So these types of things sometimes happen, I'm sure it happens in other parts of the world too. But anyway, so that seems like a non-thing, but values are so important. It has to. Yesterday, so there's this company that I consult to, and we teach people how to build online businesses from scratch. And one of the ladies that we have as a customer, she happens to be, actually, no, I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to, yeah. So she has been a customer for over a year. And I've been coaching her for a while, and she keeps coming back and saying the coaching is not good enough. People are not understanding what I want to do. They don't understand my concept and my business. And we keep coming back with different strategies. We keep coming back to like hold her and whatever. And every time we give her like something that she needs to do, she'll go off the radar and then come back 6 weeks later and tell us that we haven't done our job properly, but she hasn't actually done what she was supposed to do. And yesterday we were having, because we've given her a renewal of her contract, and it's just been like a whole thing. And yesterday I got on with our support team and I said, the problem here is that it's costing the company resources, time, money, by focusing all our time on somebody who actually isn't a good fit. One of our biggest values as a company is radical personal responsibility, and she's not taking radical personal responsibility, and therefore she is no longer a fit, and we will not be giving her an additional extension on her contract. And so, yeah, values is a big deal. So where are your values aligned? Are they aligned 100%? And could you recalibrate to make them aligned, or have a conversation? And are your team's values aligned with your company's? And then finally, the last five, or the last of the five elements is mission. So what problem do you believe your organization exists to solve, whether maybe it's your company or maybe it's the company you work for? And do you still or do you feel personally connected to that mission? And what is your mission? So this is something that I think is really, really important. And that is, do you have a mission personally? What are you known for? Do you have something that if the stuff hit the fan and for whatever reason, something changed radically and you didn't have the current job that you're a 10 out of 10 in, that you're so happy in, and you shifted, would you be able to pivot easily and go, I can just apply the function and the skill set into another area because I know exactly what my mission is? Like, what does that look like? And is that clear? So, I mean, I know that, you might, some of these questions, some of them would be really easy for you. Some people might be going through these questions, just going bam, 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 super easy. I know exactly where I stand. And it's just like a no-brainer. And sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. So what you can do is just score yourself out of 10. Your energy out of 10, your natural ability or your strength out of 10, your skill set or your capability out of 10, your values alignment with what you're currently doing out of 10, and then your mission out of 10. Does that align with the score you gave yourself at the beginning? That's what I'm quite curious to know. I mean, you might not know already. You might be kind of, you know what, I need a little bit more time, and that's cool. This is like a very quick pit stop, so I don't expect you to have the answers already, but consider that. Consider if it matches, and if it does, happy days. That's amazing. If it doesn't, just maybe give it some thought, and then perhaps use it for your teams. See if your teams can just benefit from this kind of reflection. Yeah, and then it just allows you, when you look at your score, like, where does your calibration need to be done? Just a quick question. I do have a little noise outside my door. Is it interfering with the sound, or is it all good? Okay, cool. Renata, do you want to
I have a
ask
question.
me? Yeah.
I have a question to ask you. I think that with my experience also starting my business, it's not the first one, of course. So already others that I've done before haven't worked, and then I compounded the learning right to where I am today. I found a few things, capabilities. Sometimes you're very good in certain things, but then when you start your business, you don't have all the skills that you need to do everything, right? So that's where I think that's where my energy starts to go low, because I start to go into the realm of I don't know how to do this, or I believe I'm not good at that thing. And that's where lies my procrastination to do things, or that I wake up and I want to say, I know that's the first thing I have to do to get out of the way, but definitely is the hardest. So putting names into things. So when it goes into doing like admin work or even spreadsheets of budgets, right? It's something that is crucial for what I'm doing right now, but takes me a long time. Like, I do it, and then at the end of it, I said, oh my God, is this correct? Like, I need to get to somebody else to check it for me, because there doesn't lie my strength, right? And for this reason, my energy goes lower instead of high. Like, I don't go, okay, pumping, doing a spreadsheet. I know, Chris, AI can do a lot and definitely can help, like, in a lot of, but sometimes I don't know, it's almost like I need a CFO.
Okay, so I'm going to actually talk to that because it's a really good question. Now, what we need to remember is that your context is different to somebody who is in a function in an organization. So
Yeah,
you are running a startup. And so when you run a startup, you have to be all things.
yeah,
Okay. So that means that there are definitely going to be areas that drop your energy. And that's why, specifically for a startup, the core purpose of the startup is where you are gauging yourself 1 to 10, not across all the functions. It's the core purpose and mission of your startup that you relate, because when you are aligned 100%, you are going to move through those difficult times. If you are not aligned, like me with the yogurt, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me to go through the stuff that I hate doing. But if I'm aligned with my purpose about helping people find their value and their fit, I'm going to go through that. I'm going to spend my like Gucci money on that. I don't have Gucci money, but my but I mean, I'm actually going to take like the money that I would be spending doing fun stuff, maybe like paying a social media person. I hate doing social media. I hate it, but I have to do it, or I pay somebody to do it. Like, I don't like doing admin. There's so much that I don't like doing. Like, I wish I could just do the one thing that I love. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Like, your core function, like if you're in a job, you want to be looking at the job and the function to be assessing your energy levels according to that job. If you're a business owner like you or whoever else is on this call who owns a business, it's about the mission and the purpose of the business that you're going to assess your 1 to 10. Does that make sense? And by the way, just another little side note of businesses, it was Ready, Aim, Fire, where the guy says, you are all things for your business. So that's like level 1. Level 2, you then find a generalist to help you who can take the pressure off. And then level 3 is you find one specialist, which is like the angels start singing. That's the best. Like, I remember that. That was so cool. And then level 4 is you have a few specialists and you start scaling and whatever. So does that make sense?
100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
I have another
right.
question, but I will let everybody ask something if they want to. Chris, you're good on questions. Um, you're very good. Okay, I'm gonna ask this one. Maybe you're gonna resonate with some people too about the mission, right? So the mission is another thing that I think, again, going back into my case here, that's the one I have the authority to talk about. I think I started with the mission, and as I started the doing, it tweaked to something else, right?
Okay.
Which is still aligned with what I do, but um I had this thing about just the business and bringing, making people make business together, which is in there. But then I
Mm-hmm.
realized how much I actually can help people in other things, right? That is not
Mm-hmm.
just business, which ultimately will help them in business. Because by learning about yourself and learning about the things that, pretty much the things that we are talking here, that will ultimately help you in what you do for work, right? So, this is something else that in the beginning I thought, oh my God, if I tweak my mission, I'm going completely away from my beginning. But the truth is, with the feedback, you also start to, okay, yes, this is right by the doing. So it's just to say that the doing is very important and getting the feedback from people. This is a little bit for Bertrand is here. I don't know if he's still on the call, right? That you need to try and do and get the feedback, and then potentially you're gonna change the ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the
That's something I
mission
have.
is the problem that you solve. So that makes perfect sense because when you are rooted in your purpose, like what it is that you bring to the world, the mission can change slightly. And that's where the pivot comes in. So as you're doing, people are telling you, this is what I want. And you go, oh, really? Okay, well, I'm doing it exactly the same in my own business. And it's a lot to do with being on this call. I mean, being on this call has just completely opened up so many new avenues for me because of what I've had to think about and research and all of that stuff. So yeah, the problem that you get to solve, like I'm rooted in figuring out people's unique value proposition, whether it's a business, whether it's an individual, how it gets applied to your niche, to your culture, to whatever it is. And so the mission is the problem you solve. So yeah, so that makes sense. You're 100% right.
Chris, go for it.
Hi, Sabine. Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
As I'm looking down the list of people who are attending today, I think, and you mentioned it yourself, most of us have moved country. And so I've left Australia, come back to the UK, which is technically home, right? But 12 months, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I'm doing. I do bits and it's noisy, and we've got that whole balance. And I know most of us have been through it. I need cash to come into the house to pay the bills and provide. But then I've got this beautiful thing that I really want to do, but it doesn't quite pay the bills yet. And we're in this constant flux of, I know where I should be and want to be, but this is where I am now, and it's quite noisy. So
yeah, got it.
Sabine, I'd love you to solve my problems in the next 30 seconds if you can, please.
Okay, perfect. So what you're going through is brain spaghetti, Chris. That's something that I come across all the time, where you're stuck between going the practical and the value that I add with my skill set and what I could be doing versus what I'm really like passionate about and what I feel I could be doing. And the process that I take people through is what I've just done with you now, your 5 elements of UVP, but it's actually a lot deeper. So there's a lot of why questions, there's a lot of like self-assessment, self-reflection, so that when you get to the end of that process, you actually look at what anchors everything. How can you apply a practical skill set that then gives enough value for you to receive money for? But at the same time, how do you connect a passion and a mission and a value system that means something to you? So how do you pull it all together into a concept? And we often did this in radio, and this is where like you would have a margarine brand, a butter brand, whatever, that came to you and said, we want to be sexy. How do you make that sexy? You have to consider lots of different things, to kind of bring it to life. We ended up doing really cool stuff. I'd love to tell the whole story, but I don't have time today. It was really cool. So I would say, Chris, it is a self-discovery process. It is about really laying everything on the table, looking at everything that you have. Because it's brain spaghetti, you want to actually write it down. Write down all your ideas. I mean, I could lead you to my program. It's all structured, but you could even do it on yourself. You could even just take a massive piece of paper and you could just write it all down and you could just pull it all together. So what I would say to you, if you did do it on your own, go and look at the common threads. That's what you want to do. You want to look at the common threads with all the different things, with those 5 elements that we spoke about today. Write down as much as you can, just do a brain dump, and then see what the common thread is to see, okay, where can you create value that means something to you, energizes you, and is something that the market could want. And then what you do from there, you start validating. That's a word I couldn't think about earlier on. You start validating it. So what we do, and it's exactly what Bertrand is doing at the moment, he's validating his niche. So he's going into the marketplace, he's having conversations with real people to figure out, like what Renata was saying, like when you're in the doing, people tell you what they want. And then you go, I thought I was going to solve this problem, but that's what I can do. And then it starts to reveal itself. But you have to be structured first. You have to be rooted in what your purpose is and what your focus is, so that you can then go, right, this is how I'm going to apply it. Then you take it to the market, you do your 90-day test, and then you decide whether I'm going to invest in this going forward or whether I need to pivot and go, actually, yoga's not my thing. I want to stick to business coaching. So, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome.
Chris, just one for you here. Moving countries and having to start everything from zero again, even if it's your original country, it's not for the weak. It's something very hard to do and takes time as well. And although we want things to happen fast because we are in a rush, right, to make things happen, and we look around and we see other people doing, and gives you the perception, like if we were to talk more, I would tell you much more things that you don't see that happens on the background, which happen to all of us, right? Rejection, days that I don't want to do this, although it's super aligned to my mission, my vision, everything, right? That days that I wake up wanting to go to bed again because I'm so exhausted of all the things that is in my mind, right? So I think that ultimately doing this exercise that Sabine is saying, which by the way, I've done the stuff with her a few years ago, just helps you to stick to trust a little bit the steps. Of course, you need the money to work, to live. You're gonna need to eventually find something that you need to do, a side hustle, whatever you want to call that, right? If it's needed. But I think that what I learned from this process is that ultimately this anchor you to the path, to insist, to no, because there is the difference from persisting and insisting, right? Like you persist in something that will happen, it's good, you are in the right path. And insisting is you are repeating something that, mate, you have to stop, right? And you don't. So there is these two different avenues, and I think this helps you to define one or the other. Again, just my small input.
Bertrand, hey,
Bertrand.
how's it going?
Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Sabine. Very interesting. Yeah, I wanted to share as well that it really resonates what you both say. Because from a skill perspective, I put myself at 6 because I'm not sure I know how to enroll people, how to sell, etc. And I am on this roller coaster that you mentioned, Renata, when, you know, some days you just don't want to do it. But the fact that I am rooted in my mission and in my values, the energy eventually comes back. It always does, you know. Sometimes I'm very low, but it doesn't really matter because after a few days or after a few hours, the energy comes back because that's what I love doing anyway. So it's coming back. Whereas if you're insisting, I think
100%.
you're draining your core energy. Whereas here, yeah, you wanted to say something, Sabine, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying yes, 100%.
Yeah, that's exactly what I find, and the joy is always coming back. It's always coming back. There are days where I'm thinking, oh, I should give up, etc. It's too hard. Nobody, you know, I'm not getting support. I suck at this. It's not. But then the next day, it's no, I actually want to do that. There's nothing else I want to do. So back at it, you know. Yeah.
I love
We're
that
gonna
so much, and it's 100%. It's a testament exactly what we were saying earlier with Renata about like when you're rooted in that from a values perspective, a purpose perspective, like there are hard days always. It's not unicorns and roses, but that purpose will re-energize you every time.
yeah.
And that's where the long-term success comes from. Sorry, just kind of coming back to the statistics of purpose-driven companies outperforming their competitors because of purpose is like that is a testimony to that. Sorry,
100%.
Renata.
No, what I was gonna say was just that we are gonna be doing a mastermind with Chris Business in a few months. So hope that brings you some energy and some feedback, Chris, because sometimes that all you need is you know, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
Gonna put you in the spotlight as if you weren't. Right.
Cool. Any other questions?
I will ask a question for the group here. If there is anybody else here, which I know there are some people, but of course, if you're willing to share that you have your own business or that you left, maybe even Adele, you work with you work with so many startups and people starting their businesses, and you are, you know, you're already past that phase, right? Of being in the corporate space, now helping people, now as a board. You see so many of these cases. What do you think it, you know, from what Sabine said and what you see from, you know, people transitioning from roles and jobs or starting their business they face with in purpose and mission and all that?
Yeah, a great question. I think what I observe sometimes people are in their traditional jobs, they're not really happy, but they kind of have to hit a threshold. There has to be something that tips them to the point of them saying, I'd rather go into the unknown. I'd rather take those risks, maybe not have income, have uncertainty. So for everyone, I think there's a bit of a threshold, and maybe in some ways it can be a blessing if you're in a job and you really, really hate it, because it forces you out to go and pursue what you're much more passionate about. Some people maybe are just content, even if they're not really happy. Maybe they just don't have something that's pushing them to go and take on. So I think people who are going for it out of the normal traditional method, there's this curiosity, there's something that says, I'm not going to accept, I'm not happy to just keep accepting this. And sometimes people do it in a more risky way because the threshold has been hit. Sometimes people are more conservative, so they'll, wait until different things happen. But really, I think it's only for the courageous and brave to really go and test and say, look, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to go pursue something else. And even to the point of saying, I'd still rather have gone and done that, even if it failed. I'd rather have done that because it was still the better choice than staying in that unhappy kind of traditional place or whatever it might be. So I think that's what I see. And the people that are really, I think startups can be hard and not everyone is successful, not always. But, it doesn't mean you win every time. You sometimes have to try again. And so I think it's, how persistent are they? Once you've left the comfort zone, it's pretty hard for most people to go back into it, right? They'll find a way to be successful at something, even if it's not the original plan, it's some variation or something slightly different. And they'll find a way because they'll keep trying, because they won't want to go back into that previous world. That's what I see.
That's awesome.
Really interesting. I love how you say it's for the courageous and the brave to kind of step out of their comfort zone. And I think I agree with you. There's very few people that do step out. Most people that I speak to, and this is why I do what I do, is that they're afraid to start their business. So some people, I see two main categories of people. They either have an idea and they don't start because they're afraid, or they want to start and they actually are the courageous and the brave, but they don't have an idea, so they don't know what to do. They don't, so you kind of have like, and this is where that sort of 90-day process, like if you're in a job and you're kind of thinking, I want to try something else, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you just go through a discovery process. You figure out what could you do, and then you just test it without leaving your job and see.
You can do that.
Do like a bit of a 90-day testing where you don't have to be like risking everything and then going, oh, what am I going to do now? So I think that's the value of a side hustle. I'd actually be really interested to see like what the like the success rates and our success. I've always been interested. Are success rates in entrepreneurship quite closely tied to like what Bertrand was talking about, like his persistence comes from passion, comes from purpose and that kind of thing. Because I think obviously there's other elements of success in entrepreneurship, not just passion, of course. It has to have numbers and viability and all market demand and etc. But I'd be just really interested if there was I don't think there is. I'm sure I've looked for that. There isn't actually a study that says passionate people are successful in their businesses or purpose-driven people. I'm not sure.
Actually,
Sabine, sorry, I wanted to jump in quickly. Can I?
Of course.
Yeah, hi, Matteo.
I guess there is a lot of people in the community that are also senior executives in certain companies. They have senior roles, and maybe either they see, you know, an employee maybe that is starting to get clear that they are not aligned with the purpose of the company, or maybe, as you said before in the example, there is a shift in the company and there is a new management team that takes over, and I think it's also brave to start the conversation. It's not easy to initiate the conversation and to, you know, like an example of your friend, recognize, hey, hang on a second, there is a change here. Am I just better leave, or can I do something about it? So it just came up this idea in my mind, because yes, there is a lot of people here that are in the startup phase, but there are equally a lot that, you know, they've been having a lot of responsibility with a senior role, and not necessarily they wanna leave, and they might wanna try to, you know, pivot and adjust, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you know, I think also equally, like, having the courage to have the conversation with a team. I've kind of thought about that. Like, if you've got a big team and it's kind of, you're sitting on the edge of a sword, because you're thinking, well, if I have that conversation, I might, you know, find that there is a misalignment, then people are going to leave. But is that the worst thing? You know, do you want to do a little bit of opportunity where you've got the right people and then they're in the right job because, you know, they've moved? Just a thought. Like, I mean, I think it might be quite productive, actually, in the long run. Might not be that nice to have that conversation, but could be the right thing to do. I just thought, but good point.
And often, I guess most people don't know how to start that conversation, because it's a very uncomfortable conversation quite often, right? So it can be confronting sometimes. So maybe also sometimes like we hold back because we actually don't know how to have that conversation in a way that doesn't harm our position, or just
It's
a
a
thought. And I'm not
delicate,
necessary, you know, I think it's a big, we're going into another big part of the conversation, which maybe is for another time, but yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, quite a delicate piece, but definitely worth talking about. I know we've kind of come to the end, Renata.
Yeah, that's great. Like when we start to open up the conversations, the time is over. But we can definitely, we said it was the last one. We can try to do another one, which, by the way, this conversation today inspired me to do something that may help the founders in the group, which is also a 90-day challenge on a topic, maybe sales, social media, business development, something like that, connecting with customers, where we keep ourselves accountable of doing every day for 90 days, right? Chris, you are the stress scientist, the non-stress scientist. How long it takes to build a habit? It's around that, isn't it?
Yeah, so on average 66 days of continuous behavioral modification, but it's depends on your environment. So great that we've got these ideas, but have we got support networks around us that can also drive us through that? You know, there's all these different things that can contribute. But yes, I loved it. Thank you, Sabine. Awesome.
Yeah, just to keep ourselves accountable, which, by the way, we are doing already with Bertrand there in the mastermind group, right? So it's just a little bit broader into a specific topic, maybe sales, social media. That is, I see that's a lot of especially for who's starting a business, right? Of course, who's in a working for someone, doesn't want to be there sharing so much. Sabine, thank you so much for your time. Everybody here on the call, thank you so much for being here today. The recordings are going to be up soon if you want to listen to anything again. Next week, we're going to have another fireside chat that is going to be very interesting. Is with a person called, his name is Gico Tossis. He's a Brazilian that now lives in the UK. And he started a fintech business that actually on the PowerPoint became a unicorn. Good for you, Adele, to come bring your people from Scalari, because he has a great story. But more than anything, he is in branding. He's the chief brand officer of this business. And what he believes is that you don't need to sell if your brand is strong and you have a good marketing team which is sales after all, but not that pushy thing that we hate, right? Good for you, Bertrand, to come. Where is he? In the sales component, he's going to give you some insights about branding. So I will see you all next week. Thank you again for your time, Sabine. Thank you so much. Let's keep connected. I will launch this 90-day challenge in a topic let's discuss within the community, so we can put something there that is relevant to everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Have a fantastic end of the week. And
thanks, Renata. Thanks, Sabine.
Thanks, Renata. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.